So I've been working on getting these samples back for over 20 years now, with missions, the development of with the Osiris-Rex mission in development. The sample was collected in 2020 and returned to Earth in 2023. You can see right here, getting the sample ready to be opened up and then analyzed and sent to laboratories around the world, including here at Qatar.
And so what processes did you subject them to once you had them to find out more about them?
Every analysis requires a different method. So, for example, for the amino acid analyses, we ground up the sample and extracted it in hot water, making what we jokingly refer to as Bennu tea. We steep the solids and extract the delicious liquid and analyze that in our chromatographic mass spectrometry instruments to see what's there.
And in this tea or this broth, I've also seen it referred to as, you found ammonia and amino acids. Speak to us about the significance of those things and the role that they play or may play in life.
We found over 10,000 different nitrogen-containing organic compounds, which includes these amino acids, 14 of which are found in biology, as well as nucleobases. That is the letters of the DNA and RNA code. We found those. And the ammonia, which is a great starting material to make these sort of compounds for perhaps the origin of life on Earth or elsewhere in the solar system, Mars, Europa, Enceladus, what have you. It also tells us about the astrochemistry of the sample, and that it had these ices that formed past the current orbit of Jupiter that formed in this precursor of the asteroid Bennu. We were able to sample when it came into the inner solar system and collect in 2020 and bring back to Earth.
And so what you found isn't necessarily proof that there is life out there, but it does point to the potential for it to have existed elsewhere in the solar system at some point. Is that accurate?
So we didn't at all see any evidence of life in the sample. What we see are the same sorts of compounds that you need to make life. We found a clement environment in the ancient Bennu that had an alkaline, warm, but not hot, salty water that has amino acids and bases, carboxylic acids, amines, ammonia, all those the sorts of things that you expect maybe are precursors to make life. No life at all on Bennu, but this is a pristine sample brought back, so we know it's not contaminated by the Earth, and we can compare it to the samples such as, say, the Murchison meteorite that landed in Murchison, Australia in 1969, which is one of the archetypes of studying organic compounds in meteorites and extraterrestrial chemistry. You can analyze that and confirm what we've seen is not contamination from Earth.
And have we made discoveries like this one before, or is this really a new and novel thing to have found?
So we've looked at meteorites for decades and seen some of these same compounds, but of course, there's always the specter of contamination you have to deal with. The Hayabusa 2 mission by JAXA that actually returned its capsule in Australia and then was analyzed, some of it by us. We found some of the same compounds, not as many or as much, not the same level of ammonia, but it was also a much smaller sample, so we can't look as deeply or as closely. So in this case, this sample is much larger, double what we expected and what we needed to get, 121.6 grams total material, of which we looked at about 70 milligrams for this experiment that we report in these two papers. So it is new in that we've looked at Bennu and we found these evaporites, which had never been seen before. We found all these amino acids and nucleobases, which are potentially confused by contamination, but are not. We can see them in the sample. And so because of the chain of custody, we know that the sample is pristine, and we have lots of other evidence that tells us that this is a great sample to look at and the perfect asteroid to get it from.
And Jason, I guess the question everyone is asking is, does this tip the scales at all when it comes to answering that perennial question of whether we are in fact alone in the universe?
If I knew that, I'd be booking the next flight to Stockholm to get my Nobel Prize. This gives us some evidence about the origin of the solar system and how maybe planets got formed and perhaps how life got going by looking at these ingredients, and they formed the outer solar system and moved in to the inner asteroid belt and then eventually to the inner solar system. It tells us about the ubiquity of these organic compounds and helps us understand the alphabet available in the prebiotic soup. The science team has analyzed less than a quarter of the total material. The rest of it is available for anyone in the world to provide a request for, to analyze using their own methods, their own ideas, their own techniques for decades and decades to come. So your viewers, their children, their grandchildren have the opportunity to ask their own questions of this sample.